Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Terrific Tips for Business. I am Terry, your host, and today I have a very special guest with me. This is a dear friend of mine who I've been connected to since I moved to North Carolina. We have Angel Guerrero with us today. For those of you that don't know Angel, I'll introduce you. He was born and raised in the concrete jungle of New York City, and he understands really what it means to be self-motivated despite the odds against him. Growing up, Angel excelled in his education, but never felt really satisfied in his career as a chemist until an entrepreneurial mentor came into his life. From that point on, over the last 20 years, he has served companies or has owned several companies and has learned that from failure. That failure is not optional when it comes and being successful. In Greensboro, North Carolina, he has set and cherished several boards advocating youth leadership, empowerment, male involvement in public schools, and creating better systems for our children's education in Guilford County schools. He has presented his story on creating active role models in public schools at TEDx Greensboro in 2016. He's also an award-winning speaker, achieving the Distinguished Toastmasters Award from Toastmasters International, Toastmasters' highest honor. Today, Angel and his wife operate a successful health and life insurance planning business with AmeriLife and Health Services of Greensboro, assisting people to retire with dignity and never outliving their money. Above all, he keeps his faith, family, and marriage in the forefront with his wife of 17 years and their 3 children. Please join me in welcoming Angel. I'm so grateful to have you on the show today.
I am very, very excited, Terry, to be on this show. It feels fantastic to see you face to face in this virtual world.
Yes, absolutely. We were talking a little bit about that before we started, about how technology has been bringing people together, and it's been around for a long time.
That's very true. I mean, when you think about things like Skype, which really was kind of the grandfather of all these various virtual and video conferencing medias, it has been around. But obviously the world of COVID that we're in now really brought it to like make or break. You got to use this in communicating with folks so that they see you and they experience at least some of that normal when we're in front of people face to face and so on. So it really has dynamically accelerated what we already knew potentially would be happening. If anybody's worked in corporate America, they remember the days of video conferencing, sitting in a boardroom, staring at a huge screen. Well, here we are in front of our little mobile devices and doing the exact same thing. So its time has come despite the gloom and doom, but this is what I believe the wave of more normal conferencing, more normal talking to people around the world, in the country. This will be definitely a change in paradigm.
I think so too. And I think the small business community, who is now taking more advantage of the technology than ever before, is going to experience a shift in that this is a real time saver.
Yeah, time saver, money saver. I mean, I hate to see how the airlines have been dealing with this, but travel in general, I mean, before all this happened, I would probably be traveling easily 100 miles a day, perhaps. Now, I think it's taken 3 weeks before I had to refill my gas tank. That's a really big shift in my economy world. And considering that we know perhaps gas prices are going to go back up when this is said and done, it's pretty neat. It's pretty neat that now we may be going towards this, but depending on the generation, this may still be just a sideline. Some generations may still want to have the face-to-face when the doors open, and that's something I still have now. Our industry is essential, thus we're still out there. We're still meeting people on their porches, wearing the masks and so on, but we are still interacting with them face-to-face. But those that are more our generation or younger, then they're becoming the ones that are saying, well, can we just meet? And they'll mention a company name. I don't want to keep promoting every company, but a video conferencing style. And that's it. And now we're sitting and we can actually interact. So companies, especially in the insurance world, they've also started adapting where they're saying, hey, do we really need a wet signature on that document? Or can we get away with a electronic signature instead? So now they're saying, hey, this might speed up business, speed up the way we do things. Thus, it's even putting a little preface to the small business owner saying, why don't you take your contracts and see if they can be done electronically? So thus, you also have an opportunity to create speed and efficiency in your business. So there's a lot of models that will definitely be adjusted while this is going on.
Absolutely. I'm definitely one of those small business owners from the very beginning of SpinFrogs, my marketing consulting company. I've always had digital documents. So that was one of the first pieces of software that I invested in, was how do I make my documents digital so that way people can sign digitally and have it still be upholdable if I need it to be. And I found a software that allows me to do IP stamps, IP address stamps, and time stamps on the signatures. So if the document is signed and I receive it, they receive a copy of it once I sign it as well. And it's all done. We're ready to go. Let's rock and roll, because there are IP address stamps to it, and that can be upheld in court if I need it to. Thankfully, I haven't needed that, but if I needed to.
Yeah, and that's what's happened. Many companies who've already had it, they're making sure they let people know they have it. And then some of the other companies who are a little older, and they're looking at it and saying, well, maybe we should invest in looking at that and expose it and see what kind of response we get. So in the middle of all of this chaos, there's still control, there's still some innovation, and at the same time, there's convenience for everybody who really needs to stay home because perhaps they're just not doing well health-wise and they need to protect themselves. So we're matching everybody's particular level.
Yeah, and for me, it's not a matter of needing to stay home, but I will say it's freed up about 5 hours a week for me to do all of my meetings via remote conferencing. And even when things go back to normal, and I use air quotes intentionally because I don't know that they're going to go back to how they were. And honestly, I don't know that I want it to go back to how it was, because it was pretty broken before. So this is a reset opportunity for our nation and for our world to kind of change how we're doing things and make it better, make it more efficient, make it so that people can have work-life balance again, because we haven't had work-life balance in our society in a very long time. So this remote conferencing really is allowing that capability. People get to spend time with their kids again and teach their kids things, and people get to be home in time for dinner and actually have a healthy, nutritious meal with their family. And you hear so often in what used to be normal, people running around and eating crap and not getting time with their kids and not really having qualitative life outside of work. They would live for the weekend, was the saying. So it's nice that this video conferencing has come along, because I'd really love to see it be something that is a stay. It's a stay that'll outlast whatever this coronavirus thing decides to move on.
Well, it's again the same thing. As people are developing their businesses, as people are creating their new ideas. I had the pleasure of working with a gentleman who's just starting his business, literally creating it from scratch. I might have sent him out to you. I gave him your number and everything. So hopefully he did contact you. But basically, he is starting from scratch, but we are already giving him different types of ideas. When I sat with him, this is through the local community college out in Lexington that helps business owners to be mentored by folks that have already been in business for a long time. So they get a kind of a free roadmap to avoid the common errors that many small business owners do. So imagine his marketing plan now being created, and it has to include things like this new generational difference with pandemic. And he's including that in his marketing now to be able to digitally send a business card, to be able to digitally send his brochures, to make sure his website has lots of downloadable items so that he can actually make sure the client can get all the information right from their email, right from their computer screen. So he's already planning those things. So for the new folks that are coming out, they're really redesigning because this may stay. And if it does, they've already planned for it. Now, for the business owners that are still out there 10 years, 20 years old in business, Of course, this was a crash course perhaps in electronic, digital, and marketing in a different light, not being face to face with people as easy as they used to. So this is a crash course in getting people to start. So shows like this, like what you have, the podcast, is a resource. People need to get the heads up from innovators like SpinFrogs that are, ahead of the curve. They've always talked about this. You've always said this is the way it's going, but we were maybe a few years ahead of our time. So now that it's happened, you're like, hey, I used to say that, but it's on a billboard. Somebody else is taking my catchphrase. What's going on? But that's what's happened. So we're pretty excited. I'm very excited that our company at least was innovative enough to already have these in place. But again, this is a teaching tool for the new business owner, the small business that's still 5, 10, 20 years in the making. And now adapt. That's all. Just adapt. We were talking about that just before we started. Adapt right now to the situation. Get creative, not just positive. Get creative in what you're doing so that you can outlive this and come out strong when the gates are fully wide open.
Well, and that's a great point, is not only being creative and being adaptive, but being a resource. You mentioned being a resource, and I think that's really the key. The businesses that are going to outlast this COVID thing are not the ones who had the most money. They're not the ones that had the biggest space. They're not the ones that had the biggest team. They're the ones who were innovative, who were creative, and who were resourceful and became a resource for their community and their people. Those are the ones that are going to outlast, because they became that go-to person for their community, just like you are. You've always been a leader. You've always been an inspiration from the time that I've met you. I think I met you back in like 2011 or 2012, very early on.
It's been a while. Thank you.
It has been. And you've always been a leader and an inspiration and somebody who encourages and motivates and helps lift other people up. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, is because that's what this show is all about. It's lifting other people up. So
I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. And say hi to Brian to me. I don't know if he's around there, but say hi to Brian for me.
I'll do it. He is up in the office working away. So
nice.
The COVID thing has not put a damper in the digital marketing space at all. And so he actually has picked up a few new clients.
Awesome.
Throughout the process. So it's
awesome.
Been good.
There you go. There you go. So I guess, and we were talking about this being kind of the adaptive, and again, that may be a word that some folks may or may not understand, but the idea is, like when we talked about creative, it was really that kind of concept. I got that idea from an international champion speaker, Ryan, who just said it that way. You can only handle so much positivity. Like that annoying person that comes in the office and always just says, after they're asked, how are you doing? They're like, oh, it's awesome. It's great. You just feel like after a few days of that, you want to slap them besides the head, because it's like, you can only handle so much. I mean, so you got to get creative, really, is what he said, with corporations, with companies, with businesses. And I love the ones that have done it. Like, for example, there's several restaurants in the area here in Greensboro that what they decided to do was put together deconstructed food. So they are restaurants, and they decide, they always sold like steak dinners, potatoes, and sandwiches, all these beautiful things. So what they did was they thought about, okay, everybody's at home, the families are home. So they got these big cardboard boxes with their logos all on it and everything. They deconstructed their meals. So now guess what? The family puts it together at home, cooks it a little bit more, finishes the touch, and now they got the same hot cooked meal they would have got at the restaurant. You see, that's creative. That's not changing anything that they do. All they did was just take the design, the model of what's going on today, and created a medium to bring it to. And they're only costing maybe a few dollars more than what that meal would have been. And they're still getting their name out there. They're still satisfying the customer. That's a perfect example of creative. It was literally just saying, we can't close our doors. We have too much invested in this. What's another way we can do that? And I'm not saying every business can adapt or create themselves that way, but you have to start thinking outside the box. There's just many, many medias that we have access to, majority of them free, that you can do to sort of look at that. And one of them is just like this show right here. People that hear this idea, if they're a restaurant, they're going to run to the kitchen, they're going to look at their menu, and they're going to deconstruct a bunch of dishes and bring it up. But you can do the same type of thing with just about every business, in the sense of how do we connect with each other. There's always a way, if you're willing to kind of step outside your comfort zone and go ahead and say, let's try it, let's go for it.
The beautiful thing about that idea is it's not a new idea, right? We have the Blue Apron and Plated type organizations that have done that very thing, deconstructed meals with the menu card teaching you what you need to put in what order and how long to cook it. And now you have this beautifully made hot meal that's chef created in your kitchen. And what I love about the local restaurants doing that is they're recognizing the desire for families to cook together. So no, I don't want you to just call my restaurant and order the hot food to come pick up. Call my restaurant and order the food that you can teach your kids how to cook.
Exactly. The same type of concept was done with a chiropractor. I've seen gyms doing it, personal trainers. They're putting all their stuff on video. And of course, it is free, so they're not making any money off it, but they're keeping their name out there, which is another thing that you would agree, no question about it. You want to keep the name out there so that at the end of all of this, when they can physically open up those gyms or physically open up those clinics to the public, they'll remember who was still out in front of the little screen on their phone or the bigger screen on their tablet, whatever it is. They remember that, and they also appreciated that you didn't just drop your customers. You just didn't say, well, sorry, we're in a pandemic, we're closed, that's the end of it.
Bye.
No, they said, we're still here. We're just going to go ahead and offer you all of this. We know you love us. If you want to send us a little something like a tip in the mail, here's our Cash App. Go ahead and send a little money to say thank you, but here you go. And so all the big names and the little local businesses have started doing that as well, giving basically, pro bono presentations, pro bono advice, but video. And again, because of our digital age, we don't have to spend, and I don't mean to take away from the folks in TV land and all that, but we don't have to spend the $10,000 for a 30-second ad. We can go ahead and use the digital world the way we are doing now and go ahead and present something that's really cool to everybody. And they will remember that when the doors open. So again, it's that whole creative idea. You don't have to say, what's the money I can do? We know the rent still has to be paid and the budget still has to be made, but we're going to have to take this as a loss in some cases, but it may not be a loss. It may be a seed you're planting in the ground that will grow back up in the fall or in the winter of 2020. And we can finish the year stronger than ever because we were still there for our clients. We were still there for our prospective customers. We're not giving up the door. So even in my industry, just calling folks up and saying to them, look, typically I talk about such and such, Medicare or life insurance, but I just want to see, are you able to get your groceries? Are you able to get your medicines? Is everything okay? We're advocates in a sense to the community. So we want to just make sure that you got a community around you, that you're just not totally isolated and completely disconnected. And when they hear that, they're like, okay, sure, no, I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. I appreciate that. And what do they remember? AmeriLife, Angel Guerrero was there for them at that time when things were going crazy. They didn't forget me. The thank you card is still there, or the I remember you card, or hang in there card, whatever you want to send that costs no more than Hallmark and a stamp. It's worth it. This is the time you can totally keep your prospects and customers knowing that you're there and spend a fraction of the cost than you would have spent if you really spent on the billboard when your doors were open. So again, just a great opportunity.
Yeah, and I love that we are talking about creativity too, because the catchphrase of the decade is being innovative, right? Everybody talks about, you must be innovative, you must be innovative. Being innovative really doesn't mean that you have to have certain technology. You don't have to have technology to be innovative. Those restaurants that are doing the deconstructed food meals, the gyms that are providing education through Zoom conferencing or whatever teleconferencing they're using, the people who are teaching people how to do things, that's innovative. That's being innovative. And it's not new, but it is new. because it's not something they've done before, and that allows them to be innovative for their clients. Because at the end of the day, innovation is not about necessarily always thinking of the new thing or being an inventor as we traditionally think about it as. Being innovative is finding a way to better serve your community.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
your community is unique to you. Your community is unique to people who know Angel Guerrero and AmeriLife and Greensboro, right? And the network that you've built around that, and Toastmasters even, because I'm sure that is an added value to
Oh,
your
yeah.
community.
Oh, definitely.
But each person has their own community. Every individual has at least 250 people that they can consider part of their community,
Oh,
not
absolutely.
just the community they reside in, but the community that they consider their network.
Yeah. Well, just think about this. I mean, one of the more fun ones that you hear a lot about that's been going on is the drive-by birthdays, the drive-by graduation ceremonies. I saw one that it really just touched my heart. A father, because his son was graduating high school, he went completely the umpteenth degree that I can give him a high five as a dad. He built an entire mini stage in front of his garage. He decked it out with the colors of the school. He put a podium up there, a lectern, and he had invited a few folks that they all sat 6 feet apart from each other in the audience. And he ran through an entire ceremony, brought the principal in, and they did an entire ceremony with presentation, gown, and everything right there in his garage driveway. Absolutely beautiful, showed how much he loved his children. But you see, it was a step above. What did that cost him, honestly? The lumber that he bought at the hardware store, the time that he took to just, you mind coming over, that's it.
That's it.
And it stays. So if you take that little microcosm of idea and take your business model and you go ahead and say, what is it that I can do to basically bring a light to my clients that shows them that I care about them, that I just want to be there? Take your pick. I mean, whether you're a lawn mowing company, a construction company, whether you're, any type of company that deals with products or services, you can creatively find a way to keep low budget, but awareness, publish that out in all the free media that's out there, the local paper, etc. And your name is out there for another week. And when things open up, boom, I need lawn mowing services. I love that guy over there. He brought me flowers. He just planted something just because to check I was okay. The list goes on and on. One of the ones that's really cute as well, that kind of goes the other direction. What can I do as a community individual to the folks that are still out there? We've seen lots of drive-bys for the nurses, the first responders. Kind of my favorite one, it was, again, I'll say the name, Amazon decided to do a little something on TV. They show this young little girl, she's probably only 6 or 7 years old, and she's chalk drawing on the floor. And when she finishes, then the camera pans back and you see the Amazon driver coming. He's got his mask on, he's got a package. He looks down on the ground and there's this beautiful rainbow design and it says, "Thank you." That's all it says, just "thank you." And of course, the driver, you can see in his eyes, he smiled just from his eyes, delivered the package. The little girl is there in the window waving at him on the other side, just saying, hi. Think about it. Take that little bit
That is
and
so
say,
beautiful.
what could I do with my clients that does the exact same thing, that says thank you to them for hanging in there while we're waiting for all this to change.
Exactly. And the key to all of that really is letting people know that they're seen and that they're valued. I think the biggest challenge with the pandemic is the isolation and people not feeling like people know them, know that they exist or care about them. So if you can go out of your way to do that one little piece to show them that you see them and that you appreciate them, golly, what a difference that'll make. And if every single person took the time to do that for one other person every day, what a difference would that make for our suicide rates and for our wellness? We would be able to, as a nation and as a world, heal our community because now we feel love instead of fear.
Yeah. So all these ideas are there. Everything is out there. I mean, just the business owner just has to get a little motivated and say, hey, I know I'm not going to make my numbers. I mean, if you think about how 2020 started, there's one illustration I've seen. If you can imagine a slide in a park, it just shows the slide and then suddenly it just drops like flat. And that was 2020. That's how we started. We know that. We know that 2020 was supposed to be the visionary, all those little catchphrases that they put for 2020 vision and
hindsight
the new
is
decade.
2020 vision. Well,
exactly. It fell apart. I mean, it just died. So in spite of that, it's not a flight or fight. It's really fear or faith. So if you're fearful of this thing, then you're not going to do anything. You're just going to sink in the quicksand. But if you're faithful that you have a service, you have a product that people need and want, you have something that is very valuable to the community, then don't stop telling people about it. Don't stop saying thank you to people. Don't stop serving people. Just move forward, get creative with the things that you can offer, and just start from the basics again. Just throwing those things out there to them so they see you. And at the end of this, you'll be the one they remember. And that's the bottom line with business. We want to be remembered as the agent, as the marketing company, as the one that helped us to get that first dollar when we first started, that referred us business. We want to go back to that basic. And that's all that's necessary right now, is just not staying fearful, but actually saying, I do believe in my company. I'm not going to let it sink. I'm going to go ahead and do something wild with it while I can. And that's it. And just have faith that it will stand out amongst the competition out there. And when the doors open, when our governor says, hey, it's time to open the doors, you'll be the first one they're going to go to. You'll be the first one that they're going to call because you stepped out of your comfort zone than everybody else who kind of just said the doors are closed until further notice. That's crummy. I don't like that door.
Exactly. And it's all about, you mentioned it before, planting the seeds. Now isn't the time to try and reap the harvest. Now's the time to plant the seeds. So doing all of those things in doing is an action. Taking action allows you to be of value. Not just provide value, but because you're providing value, you are being of value for somebody. And you are in action, taking steps to plant those seeds, to develop those relationships, to be of value. And because you're in action, when you're in action, you can't be in fear. They can't live in the same space.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree totally.
Yeah. So I think it's beautiful thinking of the different ways that you can be valuable and provide value. One of the things that I saw recently was wine fairy bags. I'm sure you've seen these too all over social media. People just randomly getting bottles of wine with a bunch of little chocolates and dropping them off at their friends' houses. Well, my girlfriend in New York is doing this with wine to her friends, and she's getting these wine fairy bags back. And I was like, that's really smart. That's a lot of fun. How can I make it a marketing thing, though? How can I make it better? So instead, I'm doing small business fairy bags. And what I did was, for everybody who responded to my troll email, because my email didn't work, everything in it was broken. Everybody who responded was entered for a chance to win one of my small business fairy bags.
Nice.
Well, this Saturday, I'm delivering my small business fairy bags. There's $30 worth of stuff in each bag. And all of it is from local businesses. So local brewed coffee, local winery, local jewelry shop, local health center, local oils person, all locally owned small businesses. And it's going to the people who supported me, small business. Yeah. I am supporting small businesses because they were supporting me. And so now I have found a creative way to reach out to my community and be able to support my community, my extended community.
And that's awesome. That's it. The perfect example of just stepping out and doing something that is an investment in the people that are serving you, that you buy stuff from too. I think one of the other phrases, like, again, I'm a parent, so I'm active in our PTA. And all year long, every year, it's always about going to these small businesses, seeing if they'll donate something, Well, now, the PTA said, hey, look, we don't know how long this is going to go, go to all those businesses that donated stuff to us and buy some gift cards from them, buy some things from them. So
Support
they'll still
them.
be around because we need them
Yeah.
when all this is over and the schools are open again in the fall. We need to go ahead and have these businesses here. So go buy some gift cards. So when they open, we can give those gift cards immediately to our families. They get business and they're still there. So you see, it's kind of, you have to think of it as a synergistic relationship. We're all in this together, especially our local communities. So we need to be proactive about this. We just can't sit around and say, now, again, not being unsensitive to the folks that are out of a job right now, unemployed. They're trying to hold on to that check that they got in the mail, etc. You just got to be thinking ahead that even though you may need that to buy something in the future, bread, I'm not saying pull yourself out that deep, but you have to think about it from the perspective of what's going to happen at the end of this. Did I do something personally in my professional life as well as my personal life to make sure that my kids have something after this is done? So you have to kind of do it visionary style. You have to think that way.
I mean, every family has to get food somewhere. So you're spending money on food. You can go to the local grocery store or you can go support a local farmer.
Yeah.
I mean,
and the farmers have been literally giving away practically stuff.
Yes.
You heard about the milk and gross, vegetables that they're giving away. Many big chains have bought some of that, but they can't buy enough of it. So obviously that's where we come in. We can take that drive to that local dairy farmer and say, look, I need milk from my neighborhood. So give me a couple of gallons plus, let me get some veggies anyway while I'm here. I mean, that's the little bit of effort like that. And for a business owner, you have to think that way as well.
And it's going to cost you the same either way or less.
Absolutely.
It's going to cost you the same or less to support somebody local. And look, support doesn't even have to mean you're going to go spend money with them. Another way to support somebody local is leveraging that social space. So we have social media. A lot of small business owners are on social media. If you have a small business that's donated to your school or that has donated to your nonprofit in the past that you want to support because you need them to be available next time when that time comes, shout them out on social media. Talk about how amazing they are because they need that exposure. Word of mouth is a big thing, and social media is just another mouth. So if you can shout them out on social media about how awesome they are to work with and why you love them and why your school loves them, that's a way to support them, and it doesn't cost you anything. It's time.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of groups lately that have surfaced amidst all of this that are banding a bunch of businesses together. I think you and I are at least on a couple of them. And it's been neat because the concept is just go ahead and promote yourself here. Just go ahead and ask for services that maybe you need right now. And we don't know what's open. So go ahead and throw it in here. And some of the groups are like 1,000+ people. So you're going to find what you need. I did that where a friend of mine asked me, do you know anybody who's still working that does decks? And I went to the site. I went ahead and said, here, I got a friend of mine who's asking for a deck about this size. Can you give me some names of people that are still open? And I had like 4 or 5 names within just a less than 10 minutes. So it was amazing. And I know these are local folks. So therefore, I'm helping the local community, give them an opportunity to do their task, do their chore. And my friend gets the satisfaction that they got somebody that's recommended by over 1,000 people. So it makes perfect sense. So you have to think, okay, where are these groups, right? If you're a local business owner, you're looking at this right now and you're like, okay, where do I find these? Well, you got 2 sources here. You can call SpinFrogs, you can call AmeriLife in Greensboro, and we'll send you the link and you're all set. So again, that's kind of the concept is like you just don't stay stuck and don't move in fear. You have to do something. And creativeness, the way we've been talking about now, is probably the best thing you can do to keep your business really thriving when all of this finally changes, or even thriving while we're still in it and wonder why everybody else is not doing the same thing.
I have several friends who have been having a really hard time with it, with this whole lockdown because they were seriously impacted. They had to shut down. They didn't qualify for some of the loans or the grants or funding that were out there for one reason or another. And so they're having a hard time. And I can feel the frustration. I understand the disappointment that they're
Right.
going through. And at the same time, I look at these groups that exist in social media spaces or virtually, and I say, you're just not surrounding yourself with
Mm-hmm.
people who can lift you up. This whole crisis is built for us to show us what we're capable of and show us that we can lift others up. And it doesn't mean that we're tearing ourselves down to do it. We just have to get plugged into the right places. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
feeling
Absolutely.
like, if you're hearing this and you're feeling lost or confused and you don't know where to network right now, I promise you there's networking happening every day, just
Yeah.
like there was before this crisis happened. It's just happening in a different way. It's
Yeah.
adapted for the
Yep.
time. But there are people meeting people. There is business being done. Things are still happening. And if you don't know where to find it, like Angel said, definitely reach out, because we'll get you plugged into a couple of places. And then it's just a matter of asking people, where else can I go? The
Yeah.
doors will open. The doors
Yeah,
will
it's
open.
really changed a lot. Like I was invited to a couple of presentation meetings where it was like the Rotarians, and they had their meeting. And when I was noticing kind of how many folks were on that meeting as I was talking, there was over 77 people on there, and I didn't realize there was that many people in that Rotarian meeting watching me talk about just a couple of little things that I was sharing with them. That was amazing. Then we just recently in Toastmasters had several of our contests that we normally do around this time to become the international world champion. And they're still going on. And most of those meetings are anywhere from 30 to over 100 people on little square boxes like the Brady Bunch, all in there doing their thing, still presenting, still getting feedback. So people, like I said, have not stopped. The world is still going. What you're hearing in the news, and again, I'm not this type of monger that's saying, bad news, fake news, whatever. That's not what I'm concentrating on. It's just you can focus on the dire and gloom, or you can say, where's the solution? Where is the solution to my challenge, my problem? What do I need? If I don't have it, there's got to be somebody that does. So where can I go to get that? And there are tons of folks right now, millions across the world, that are offering free, literally, whether you go on LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram, it doesn't matter. You can tap into these amazing brains that are offering all this suggestions, advice, consultation. And right now, you don't have to pay a dime. So it's like, wow, this was the opportunity you were waiting for, to go to a conference and pay nothing, instead of like $100 that you would have paid to get to that conference, plus hotel and everything else you had to spend. Now they're offering them for nothing because they have no other option. This is what we're at. So this is your time to thrive, grow, educate yourself, give back to the community. All these topics we talked about at your fingertips, literally at your fingertips. You can do it.
Take the time. I mean, we've had the time. We've been isolated. We haven't been able to go anywhere. A lot of people have been laid off.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
have the time right now. If you're sitting at home not working, you have the time to reinvent yourself. Who do you want to be? And then go find somebody who's giving away that material for free, because it's out there. It's absolutely out there. I know people like Brendan Burchard and Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi. I mean, these are big names. Big coaches across the world are giving away marketing tools, business tools, success tools,
Yep.
all over the place. And I love that Toastmasters is still active. Toastmasters is great if you're looking at being a professional speaker. If you think you want to be an inspirational speaker or motivational speaker, you've got to get plugged into Toastmasters. It's going to help you be better. And the fact that you can do it and save time, because now you're not having to travel. I said the same thing to a guy from BNI the other day, Business Networking International. I said, he's like, where are you networking? I was like, dude, BNI. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, you're a BNI member, right? And he said, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's where we met. BNISoutheast.com shows you all of the chapters in the Southeast, if that's where you are. And contact the president and say, hey, I want to visit your chapter. Are you still meeting remote? They are. I was just in a conversation with one of the directors the other day, and she said, as far as she can see, BNI is going to remain remote as long as the rest of the world is having to remain remote because we
Exactly.
can't meet in person until everybody can meet in person. So they're going to
Correct.
have remote sessions worldwide from now until who knows?
Exactly. And
Probably
they're
the end of the year.
adjusting, many organizations are adjusting their pricing
Yeah.
because they know that they can't offer the full package, but they say, hey, you join now, this is the least expensive way to join is during this time period and in the middle of a pandemic, because we'll go ahead and honor your membership or honor your service fee, whatever it is, because right now this is the only way we can do it. So you're still getting the experience and the knowledge, but at a fraction or no cost whatsoever. I mean, you can't deny that there is a huge opportunity to get plugged into the community, get ready, or already starts marketing and selling your services and products. It hasn't stopped, really. It really hasn't. The advent of e-commerce, as it started way back when, now it's even now just e-services and you put the e and just cut it off, and it's just the way we're doing things right now.
E-life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of creativity, and for those folks that don't know where to start, again, somebody like yourself, they just connect with you, have a conversation, go online, plug in. It's all there now. There's really not many excuses at this point.
You can
Even
start
if you have a service base that is really face to face, that's the time to get creative and say, how can I at least keep myself going in the meantime? And the idea is there floating around already.
Exactly. And for those that are starting a business, I've been very fortunate to have a couple of conversations with people who have been so incredibly brave and forward thinking to start a business right now. Hell of a time to start a business. They just saw a need. They saw a need in their community. And you know what they did? They tapped into, what have I done? What do I know how to do? Okay, I was just laid off. Well, that sucks. What do I know how to do?
Right.
What can I tap into that I maybe have done before that I can now revitalize and bring back and
Yep.
make some connections, help the community, maybe make a little money doing it. And that's really the
Exactly.
best way to do it.
I agree with that. It's really, now is the time to again start to really look at your new marketing plan and go ahead and execute it like yesterday, and begin the process of getting that one-on-one time with other folks, but get going. Start doing something in your place of business that you can impact your local community. I mean, that's really the formula I believe will be successful.
Angel, this has been amazing. I know we can talk for a whole nother hour, but I want to be respectful of your time and everybody listening. So my last question for you today is, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, there's a couple of ways. My personal website is easy. It's just my name. So Angel F as in Frank Guerrero.com. So that's just my personal site. It has a lot of things about me and the things that I've done and so on. So just ANGELFGUERRERO.com. My phone number, I always keep myself accessible to it. It's attached to my hip pretty much. So 336-508-5870. So that's an easy way to get to me. If you want to email me something, it's just, again, my name, Angel Guerrero. So no F in that case, just Angel Guerrero, the number 3@gmail.com. That way I can kind of filter it out and things like that. Or you can look me up at Amerilife@Greensboro.com, not .com, but Amerilife at Greensboro. Our office is right here, open for business. And so anybody needs any insurance planning in all areas, insure your money, insure your life, that's what we do. So I'm happy to help the folks out here and connect you with our folks anywhere around the country, in fact.
Awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. You've provided such great value to our listeners, listening about being creative, being adaptive, and how can they be resourceful and a resource for their community. So thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thanks for having me. Good luck, everybody. Appreciate you.